Question 9 is a sequences and series question. You know, what you'd always advise to students, they might look at this, they might, they mightn't like the look of it, immediately. What you'd say to students is read it a couple of times, try to get your head around it. It says Cork Milks Limited is a company. It made a profit of 50,000 euros in 2018, year one. A model for future trading predicts that the profits will increase year by year in a geometric series, a geometric sequence, I should say, with a common ratio R, where R is greater than 1. So in this case, we spot the word geometric sequence, common ratio R is greater than 1. So it is going to be an increasing sequence with R greater than 1. The model therefore predicts that 2019, year 2, a profit of 50,000 times R will be made because it's the initial 50,000 in 2018 multiplied by R. And then will be made, and in year 3, which is 2022, a profit of 50,000 times R squared would be made, R times R. Write down an expression for the predicted profit in year N. So it's a bit of an abstract question. So students want to read it a couple of times. But then, as I always say, if you don't know what to do, do what you know. So you could look here and you'd say, okay, I know my formula for the geometric sequence. The general term is Tn is equal to A times R to the power of n minus 1. A being your first term, R being your common ratio, n being the number of terms. So in this case, we know the first term is 50,000, R is R, and n is n. And so that's it. That's all you actually had to do. And that was 10 marks. So sometimes students will kind of balk at doing a question because they'll just say, God, I'm not sure of how to start it. But of course, here you can see that actually it was just filling in the formula, and all you needed to really do was know that 50,000 was the starting point. Now, students again might not be too enamored with seeing this here as part 2. It says the model predicts that in year N, the profit made will exceed 200,000. Show that N is greater than log 4 divided by log 5, or log R, I should say, plus 1. It gives us a little hint here that log 4 is log 4 to the base 10. Okay, just so the students would understand that. So again, I say to students, sometimes, the starting of a question can be the toughest part. So sometimes you just mightn't be quite sure what to do, but sometimes you try something and you write down step 1. Step 1 leads to step 2. Step 2 leads to step 3. And before you know it, you're at the answer. So let's give that a try. Our general term is our 50,000 times R to the power of n minus 1. And basically, where the question is asking, where is that going to be greater than 200,000? You could be forgiven for wondering how that's going to bring us to this part here. But what we do is we just continue on. What we're asked to show involves getting n on its own. So let's try to do that. Divide both sides by 50,000. Of course, 200,000 divided by 50,000 is 4. That's probably our first little hint that maybe we're on the right track because we have the 4 involved. And all of a sudden, it looks like a much more straightforward question. Of course, we know logs are going to come into play here. So let's do the following. Let's take the log of both sides. So I'm taking the log, and it's log to the base 10. So I'll just write in as base 10 for now. Log to the base 10. And my left-hand side will be, so log R to the power of n minus 1 to the base 10 is greater than log 4 to the base 10. But of course, I can use my third law of logarithms, which is my power to the front law, and that'll allow me to bring the n minus 1 before the log R to the power to the base 10, so before the log of R to the base 10, and then I could write that then as n minus 1 times log r. And remember, that's log r to the base 10, and that's greater than log 4 to the base 10. So now I keep an eye on my answer. I'm looking back here. I'm saying I'm not a million miles away. I'm going to divide both sides by the log of r. I know that r is positive, so that's okay. I can just divide both sides by the log r. So I have n minus 1 is greater than log 4 divided by log r. And then I just add 1 to both sides, and I have my answer. So it's for 10 marks. So as I said, a lot of students will struggle with, the abstract nature of that, the steps involved. But for a lot of students, they'll get started and they'll get the answer. Of course, as I mentioned so many times, you have the answer to part B. And even if you aren't fully sure what it means, you can still use it in part C. Find the year in which the profit made will first exceed 200,000. So it turns out you could just use this here. But actually it gives us one more bit of information. It says using the model with R equal to 1.9. So I could have just used my final line for part B, but a lot of students will go back to the start and they will use their general term, the 50,000 times R to the power of n minus 1. Okay. And we're told that R is equal to 1.9. So it's 50,000 times 1.9 to the power of n minus 1. Again, divide by the 50,000. There's your 4. Take the log of both sides. And again, that is log to the base 10. So I'll just add in this one line for students. So you're taking the log of both sides. So it's log of 1.09 to the power of n minus 1 to the base 10 is greater than the log of 4 to the base 10. And then I can bring my power in front. So it's going to be n minus 1 times log of 1.9 to the base 10 is greater than log of 4 to the base 10. So that's what I get here. N minus 1 times log of 1.9 is greater than log of 4. So I then just going to divide both sides by the log of 1.09. I'm going to get 16.08 for that. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I'm going to say n is greater than 17.08. I look back at my question, find the year in which the profit made will first exceed 200,000. A little bit of thinking will tell me then my answer will be n equals 18 when I'm actually doing, figuring it out in terms of n. But I'll have to add that on to my starting point. And when n is 18, my answer will be the year 2035. If you tried it as n equals 17, because some students will rounding downwards, you will see that it'd be incorrect, because if you actually put in n equals 17 into the starting point, the general term, you will find that they would not make 200,000 euros profit in that year. It would be less than it. So that was 5 marks. Find the total profits. Find the total of the profits that will be made by the company over the 10 years from 2018 to 2027 inclusive, and give your answer correct to the nearest 10,000 euros. Okay, so we'll have to remember to round up at the end. We're told it's a geometric sequence. We're asked to add these terms together. So it's like, it's the total of the profits. So it's going to be the sum of the terms. It's 10 years, 2018 to 27 inclusive. So that is going from year 1. So in that case, like you're saying, okay, well, what's my first term? Well, in the first year, they made 50,000. So that's going to be my A. We know that R is 1.09. So we're still using that. The R is equal to 1.09. It's 10 years. So I'm putting in 10 for R. I do my calculation, correct to the nearest 10,000. To the nearest 10,000, then, I'm rounding up this number here. And to the nearest 10,000, it rounds to 760,000 euros. So that was 10 marks. You can see that if you understood how to do it, the mathematics are straightforward. But I do understand that in the heat of the exam, when you're trying to figure it out, students can start to lose track of the question. And what's relatively easy then becomes more difficult because you're not quite sure, or have you been doing everything right so far? Our last part here is to draw the graph of the profits over the time between 2018 and 2027. In this question, so you must figure out all of the values. Now you can use your table function on your Casio or the new Sharp to do this, or you can just work it out individually and plot it. So you can see it's an increasing function. It is a geometric function, and that was for the last 5 marks. Again, students could get those 5 marks without doing some of the earlier parts of the question. So with that in mind, that is the end of question 9, and we move on to our final question.